Okay, here we go. Nathan, it's fantastic to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Olivia. It's an awesome connection. I sort of saw your post on the Facebook group, and yeah, I didn't realize that we were the same age, doing the same thing, very similar journey. So it'd be good to see what we chat about today.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you. Last week, I actually binged your podcast and listened to a whole bunch of episodes. So I feel like I kind of know you a little bit already. I know a little bit about, who you are, what you're passionate about, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm really excited to, get a little deeper on that and share that with my audience.
Now I'm looking forward to it. Let's get into it, eh?
Yeah, so you are a mentor for kids and teens, but this is not something that you've always done necessarily in this way. So I'd love for you to start off by just sharing with us what it is that led you to the work that you do now.
A good question. I know for me, I was always wanting to work with children, and like I went to uni and did the teaching thing, and then 2020 started, and I sort of didn't take the experiment that they were offering, so I went on a different path, and it was during that time I really started to go in deep with who I was, what I was doing, the person I was. And I came across this podcast that one of my mentors had done, and actually a buddy of mine recommended that he interview my my mentor now. And I listened to that podcast. He was talking about self-sabotage. His name's Jason Christoph, also from Canada too. And he was talking about self-sabotage. And I listened to that podcast probably 3 times. And it was actually after I was very hungover from the night before. It was actually the last night I ever drank alcohol. And I found that podcast the next morning, actually about 3 hours later. And then yeah, listen to that podcast, talking about self-sabotage. I went, well, I do all of that and more. Like I'm the king of self-sabotage. Like I sabotage everything, like relationships. If you listen to my podcast, you knew the sort of lifestyle I was living before I am the man I am now. And it was that podcast that sort of opened my eyes to my stuff, like my shit. And it was like I emailed him for different advice, and then he opened up his self-sabotage coaching program. And something inside intuition was like, I need to do this. Like I need to delve into my shit, because I already knew about the world truths, and it was time for me to delve into my own journey. And it was upon that journey where I really figured out, like I learned about the subconscious mind and how I was wired to do the things I was doing, and what my belief systems were within myself. And it was all about untethering and letting go and just allowing myself to step into my full potential and step into my power. And it took a few years to get to where I am now, but I'm very grateful that I went on that journey, learn about this stuff, and then applied it into my own life. Like it's very simple to learn the stuff and then not apply it. Like we see a
Mm.
lot of people read self-help books and then they go back into normal life and they don't apply what they've read. Whereas there was just something inside, like a fire inside for me to just embody what I'm learning and reading to be that better version of me. Because I always had hopes and dreams. I always had big dreams and big visions, but I always sabotaged it because I didn't feel like I was worthy enough. And then once I sort of started the journey, it came very clear to me through meditation, through spirit. It's like you're still going to work with children, but you're going to mentor them in a different way. You're not going to tell them what to do and sort of in the system. You're going to mentor them and show them about this spiritual stuff, about how to understand their emotions, how to deal with them and feel them. A lot of kids feel them. They don't know what the emotion is. Like if you ask a child what is anger, you'll get a million different responses, but they don't necessarily want to feel that anger or feel that emotion. It's about helping them understand, even like the spiritual stuff with their dreams and all these things. It just become very clear to me that I was going to help these children, whoever comes into my field, to be like, yeah, I was one of you as well. I used to have wild dreams. I used to have out of body experiences, sleep paralysis. I used to have a wild imagination, but society was like, that's all woo woo. You need to do in your head, right? And it's like, no, this stuff's real. And for me, it's one of my big passions is helping children understand there is another side, and the things that they're seeing are real. Like I saw a mermaid like a month ago in Noosa. We're talking about Noosa early on, just off air. It's like I see these things too, and I want to help you nurture that ability to step out into the world and be heard and seen. And for me, that was my biggest things, was being heard and seen. And yeah, to be able to help children and help teens and adults to sort of step onto the path has been awesome work. But it started within first. I wouldn't have been able to do what I do now if I hadn't have gone on my own health healing journey.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. It's really interesting, like how you said, you had a big night out and the next day you listened to that podcast. And that really was like the pivotal moment for you where obviously, everything that was going on in your body and your life up until that point, you were obviously, ready for change. There was a transition coming, but it's so interesting just that one podcast, that one moment of, hearing a conversation, hearing ideas and perspectives of something new that you haven't heard before. And it just
Yeah.
flip the switch and you were like, okay, now I'm going to go in this direction.
Yeah, and I'll just add a little bit of the story behind that too. It was that night where I looked myself in the mirror and I said, "This is my last night of drinking alcohol, chasing women, being that old version of me." I said to myself, "This is the last night I'm going to do this." I had no idea that 12 hours later I was going to be listening to a podcast about self-sabotage. I really did. And during that night, it was about 4 or 5 in the morning, and I had a lot of other substances along with the alcohol. And I'm sitting on this plastic fold-out table talking to 3 young girls. So I was the oldest person at the gathering by about 6, 7 years, and they were probably 19, 20, and I was 26, 27. And I remember just saying a pickup line, and then I fell through the table. Like, that was my rock bottom. That was like, "Nathan, it's time for you to step onto that journey now, step onto that path, become who you're supposed to become." And it was like 3 or 4 hours after that moment, that podcast dropped, and yeah, it just completely changed my trajectory, changed my path to where I am now. Was that pivotal night in September of 2021.
Fantastic. And like you said, it was like you kind of had already put it out to the universe. You already made the decision that, hey, things change from now. And you didn't have obviously any like, inclination of like how that was going to transpire. And lo and behold, this podcast, falls on your ears and you're like, okay, I love that. I love like the alignment of it. And I know that you're quite, spiritual as well from listening to your podcast there last week. And it's something that you've been able to nurture in yourself, something that, you recognize as a kid, but obviously, we go through life, we grow up, the programming sets in and we kind of lose that a little bit. So is that a big part of your coaching that you do now, is really, I guess, supporting young adults to kind of like recognize that in themselves, their intuition, and really like
Yeah.
go through life, like listening to that and tuning into that.
Yeah. And it's about also helping them connect with themselves on that deeper level. And it's about holding space for that person to be able to go to those places that they don't really want to go to. But I find that even with myself, that it's not really necessarily that a place that that's so like the dark place that they're afraid of. They're afraid of shining their light on that dark place. And
Mhm.
I find that a lot of people, including myself, were afraid of my own power, my own potential. I was actually afraid of who I could be rather than what I was.
And that's the ultimate act of self-sabotage, that is, isn't
100%. Yeah.
it?
And
So
we
let's talk
all
a
we all have felt that. Yeah.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about self-sabotage then. I'm sure at one point or another, every single one of us in our lives have experienced this, whether we realize it or not. Once we do start to work on our emotional intelligence skills, work on our self-awareness, we can have a little bit more understanding around this. But I'd love to talk about what self-sabotage can look like for those that perhaps, maybe don't recognize it in themselves. And I know that it's going to look different in, for example, relationships, in your career, your professional life, and then just in life in general. So I'd love for you to kind of take us through what that can look like in these different kind of environments.
All right. Let's start with the part of the mind that doesn't get taught inside the school system, called the subconscious mind. We have two main parts of the mind that make up the human psyche, right? You got the conscious mind, the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind sits behind the conscious mind, and it works on what you picked up from the womb till when you were here and now. It records everything. It records conversations all around you. And the way it works is that what you see and what you hear is what you become. So if your house was full of what it is these days, lying, cheating, stealing, That's your repetitive program. So it works on repetition. So it's like going to the gym. If you want to go to the gym and you want to get big biceps, you're going to do a shit ton of bicep curls, right? And you're going to keep going until you eventually see growth. It's the same with the mind. So if you have had that lying, cheating, stealing program, that's the life that you will automatically live because that part of the mind deemed it as safe and familiar. And the way it works is record 6 million pieces of information per second. And from 0 to 6, children are walking theta brainwave state robots. They mirror, mimic, and copy everything that their parents do, their teachers do, friends of friends do, cousins, brothers, sisters, whatever. And that's what, and their program is, and their mind scanning. What is safe for me to play here? Oh, my family's drinking alcohol. Okay, so that's a safe card to play. That's going to find me safety in the bigger group. And I know as humans, and you would know too, we're pack animals, right? We bond with the bigger group. We want to feel safe, secure, and supported in our group and in our tribe. So we will do things that we're not necessarily aware of, but we'll do them anyway to fit in, to go along, to get along, to blend in, to be that person inside that tribe for acceptance, because we just want to be accepted. And for self-sabotage, right? So if you have a group of friends that are all, okay, drinking, partying, and smoking, we'll just go there. And one person puts their hand up and says, I'm not drinking tonight, or I'm not drinking. That person will get mocked. They'll get pressured, peer pressured into taking, and then eventually, and it's like, if your group of friends aren't evolving and aren't growing, but you want to grow and you start to grow, it's like crabs in the crab bucket. They will pull you back down because it's like, oh, they're growing up, they're taking big steps, and it's shining a light on them being like, well, I'm not, I'm there, people are comfortable with where they are. And it's understanding that and letting those friendships and letting those people go, because those new people will come in that are maybe 3 steps ahead of you, that maybe are on the similar path to you. And unfortunately, that's just how the nature of this journey works. And I'll give you another story too with how these sabotaging behaviors work. It works on a flip side too. So if you're not comfortable or ready to start that journey, like you start getting bigger arms and you start feeling more healthier and more vibrant, and your friends are a little bit overweight, they're not looking and feeling the way you are, then that part of the mind, or this is a very unsafe thing here. You're getting healthy, you're getting strong. No one around you is doing that. Or you're going to be alone. You're going to be very, very, very lonely on this journey. So then people will just automatically stop. Like people will lose weight. They'll lose 50 kilos. And then you'll see in 2 years' time, they'll put it back on. It's like this part of the mind. That's not a safe card to play out there in society. Because if you're overweight and all your friends are, and then you become healthy, strong, it's like, oh no, now I'm above and now I'm alone. Oh, there's no one around me. My friends are all, and you'll just automatically, without even realizing it, you'll go back and you'll put on that weight again. That's how, like, this part of the mind controls our behavior. And once you're consciously aware of how it works and how you can reprogram it, you can literally reshape your whole life and transform yourself beyond your wildest dreams. But it's like going to the gym. You got to go to the mental gym. You listen to hypnosis recordings. You surround yourself with affirmations. You self-talk. Your inner self-dialogue. You're asking questions. And it's a day-by-day process. You're not going to become the healthy, strong version of you overnight. It's just going to take patience, resilience, and discipline. And in terms of relationships, well, this part of the mind will hit the self-destruct button every single time. You might have mummy or daddy issues related from your childhood, given the 0 to 6 age group. So if your mother or father wasn't present in your life, then your trust for a woman, a dad is the figure in their lives, the first male figure that they trust and that they love. If that father breaks that love and that trust, then women are going to be looking for that subconsciously looking for that man to be able to love them and to protect them the way that their father wasn't. But the way this part of the mind works is they'll look for they'll pick up men or boys that are just like their father that will hurt them because they have this wound, this subconscious wounding of all men are bad because my father treated me a certain way, and then their boyfriends all treat them the same way. And for me, I hit the self-destruct button. I had a lot of issues with my mother. My mother and I now are on a really awesome terms, but I was looking for that same woman. But then when a good woman would come in, I didn't feel like I was worthy of it. So I'd push the self-destruct button. So I'd ghost, I'd cheat, I'd do those things because I didn't feel like I was worthy.
Mhm.
So this part of the mind will control every aspect of your life until you become consciously aware of the patterns, of the relationship patterns, the financial patterns, and you'll see that everything will relate back to when you were that child. It's like I'm looking for someone subconsciously that is going to hurt me the way my father hurt me if I was a woman.
Yeah,
That's,
because that's the
yeah,
familiarity.
correct. It's the safe card, right? It's safe.
Right?
But
Yeah.
consciously, the women are like, well, why do I keep attracting men like my father? Or if they're not consciously aware, why do men keep hurting me? And then they have this wound or this belief system of all men are dicks, all men are bad, all men are, and then that's society right now. Look around you; it's everywhere. But it's about doing this healing work, understanding the patterns, understanding this part of the mind, and using it to guide you and to reshape your entire life.
Yeah. And so then I guess the key there really is, in the conscious mind, really recognizing and understanding the patterns. I think that would probably be, correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of this first step to kind of just, again, building that self awareness and recognizing, hey, this is a thing that keeps happening, or these are the type of people I keep attracting, or this is the behavior that I keep exhibiting towards this particular scenario, and starting to understand, ooh, there's a pattern here. Perhaps
Mm.
there's a programming that's controlling this behavior and these habits around this particular pattern, right?
I'll give you another example. So for me, I watched American Pie a lot. So, and I watched Friends and I watched Two and a Half Men. So you can sort of see the programming here. Charlie Sheen, right, had the beach house, he had the cigars, he had the women, he had the hot tub. It's like subconsciously, I wanted to be that guy because it was safe for me to be that guy. So then I watched American Pie. Stifler would talk about his conquests. He would brag about the women that he was sleeping with, talking absolute rubbish. It's like that was the safe card for me to, this is my teenage programming here. And then I'd watch Friends with Joey, same thing. So
Mm.
who was so from 18 to 27, I was trying to be like them because on the screen, it's such a safe card for me to play. So I wanted to be that guy that some of the bunch of women had the hot tub, had and I wanted to be that guy because I thought he was a king. I thought he was cool. I thought that that was going to get me acceptance and get me some safety inside the tribe. But reality set in. It's like I was a real dick to women the way they were. But in the show, it's projected as women like being treated like that. In
Mm.
reality, women don't like being treated like that because I was treating women like that. And then as soon as I sort of had that epiphany, I was like, well, I need to change the way I am and turn my back on the stuff that's on the programming that's leading me down the gutter, like the music, the TV shows, everything that we consume on a repetition basis. As I said before, we become that. I became Stifler, Joey, and Charlie in my own way, just from watching that. Like, I watched American Pie at least 100 times. I'm gonna be honest with you. I watched Two and a Half Men. I watched all those shows. There's so many more, but I wanted to be that guy. But then once I delved into that and being like, that's not me at my core. That's not who I am. I'm being someone that I'm not to fit in. I didn't come here to fit in. I didn't come here to people please. I didn't come here to be that guy. I came here to do some pretty awesome shit and live the life that I want. But being that guy was not getting me where I wanted to go. So I had to let him, that version of me, go and then figure out who is my authentic self. What's heart centered? What's my ego? Where is that balance? And it was in that moment of really journaling and delving in deep with myself, going, well, who do I want to be? What sort of leader, what sort of man do I want to become? 2 years ago, I did that. I'm living that version of me now. We talk about solutions. A lot of people love solutions. A good solution is just asking yourself, who are you? If you're a teacher, who are you beyond a teacher? You might be a father and mother. And then go deeper. Who are you? And then figure out at your core, your center, who it is that you are. And it was that reflection last year when I moved up here of who actually am I? I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a coach, I'm a podcast host, but who am I when I take those labels off? I'm just a soul that's inhibited this body for a human experience. That's it. That's who I am. But then who am I really? Well, I can have fun. I can be nice and I can be kind, but in my own way, rather than having all these influences around me, just me and myself and my thoughts, and then a vision board. 2 years ago, my brother and I made a vision board to be where we're living now. I'm living the version of me 2 years ago that wanted to be where I am now. And I have a lot of gratitude and a lot of gratefulness and a lot of fondness and then it's like, okay, you get the thing that you want and then people just stop. It's like we keep going. So Nathan, what else do you want? So I have a vision board now of in 2 years' time, a woman and a family. And to be able to provide for that family. That's who I'm stepping into now. So I'm always working on myself to step into another version of me. So beyond the father and the husband, wow, that's a really good question that I may need to then, once I have that, to then figure out, okay, what's next? Because if we're always having something to strive for, we're going to get out of bed every day and have purpose. So for me, it's I want to build a family and I want to meet a woman to be able to do that. So how am I going to do that? Well, each and every day I'm one day closer. What can I do today that in 2 years' time or in 1 year time or whenever it is that day comes that I've put the good habits and whatever into that energy to be able to bring that into reality. So it's manifestation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Fantastic. I love that. It's like, the way that you described it, you had a complete identity shift, and now you're very aware and intentional about embodying the kind of person that you are going to choose to become, and not just,
correct.
accepting, not that, okay, of course we have to accept ourselves, like we have to accept and love ourselves for who we are, but also we get to understand the parts of ourselves and like what parts are serving and what parts are not. And obviously you had that shift and you did that work to kind of let those old parts of you, those old versions of you fall away that weren't resonating anymore, that weren't, getting you to closer to the person, the man that you actually want to become. This is so incredible. I'm loving this conversation. This is
Yeah,
fantastic.
and you just gave me another awesome point too. It's about, I've put myself in those shoes of being that father and husband already.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
know it's not here, but I'm already, like, each and every day it's as if I'm imagining like I've already got them in my life. So I'm already embodying that person now to then allow that in.
Yeah. And that
Yeah,
is the ultimate manifestation, right? Like that's exactly how it works, is like stepping into the vibration of that version of you that has those things, is those things, feels those things, right? Um, there was a question that had just dropped in and just escaped. Give me one moment
that's all
here.
right. But that's what they don't show you inside the school system. And that's what I show people on a daily basis is how this all works and how you can manifest the life that you want. But it's going to be a really, really challenging, can be a really challenging period, letting go of everything that you once were to become that version of you that you see. I see people's potential. I see who they can become, but they got to do the work to untether from that old version of them and those old belief systems to bring in the new. And it's upon those letting go and those really shitty periods is where you really discover who you are. But people stay stuck in the shit for too long. Like I know I did. And then like it, yeah, it's the most common act of self-sabotage is you're starting the work. Then as you start to evolve and grow, you get fearful of being that person. So you just remain comfortable with where you are, but it's shining that light on all of that shit to then step into the new.
Mm. So I want to ask you a little bit more about your coaching,
Yep.
and some of the, findings from, working with children. But I do just want to ask first, on your journey, your healing journey, when you kind of had that light bulb moment, and like obviously now you're a very different version than you were, 2 years ago. I'm curious for you because there's so many, healing modalities and like different
Ooh.
techniques and tools and strategies out there that, some work great for these people and not so much these people over here. Everybody has a different way of doing things. I'd love to know what for you was, some of the most powerful practices, I guess we'll call them, that you um took on board when you were going through your healing journey.
So yeah, so that podcast started the health sort of sabotage journey. But then around that time, I did something called quantum healing. And it was like the spiritual awakening started. So a friend of mine who's awesome, and one day when she steps in to the world stage, look out. She was learning and having guinea pigs for quantum healing, and my brother and I were just happened to be at this gathering again, just happened to be there, and she just happened to mention it, and I'm like, okay, let's just see what this does. And I remember that session so vividly because it was almost 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, that I had that session, and it awoke me spiritually because my grandfather was standing in like right in front of me. He's obviously passed on, and my cousin and I had another family member as well standing there, and I'm like, wow, we like that connection was so strong. They came through so strong. I know. And on those quantum healings, you delve into past lives and you delve into different things for your journey to sort of help you understand this life and the things that you're doing. And it was in that session where I really sort of awoke spiritually. But then as I started building the habits and started taking care of myself more, it became very clear to me that my dreams are pretty wild. And I had this thing called sleep paralysis for such a long time. And as a child, I used to feel like I was being taken. I felt like I was being like choked. Like when you have sleep paralysis, you can't like move in the bed. And it's your soul wanting to pop out of your body. I learned about this thing called out of body experiences through this interview I did with Darius Wright on my podcast. And he was talking about it, and I just had this intuitive pull to be like, I need to talk about my sleep paralysis. And then he helped me then have these wild experiences where you're literally out of your body and then your body's laying there and you're like, holy dooly. And then it's like as a kid, I always had these gifts and these experiences, but it was like society was like, oh no, that's woo-woo. Oh no, don't do that.
Mm.
But I find that the more physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy you are, your body can do these awesome things. Like we can all do these things. But it's a matter of taking care of yourself and also stripping back your belief systems and allowing that connection back in. And some wild experiences I've had with clients are like they start to take care of themselves and then they're like, oh, I had this dream last night, or I had this experience last night. And it's like, wow. Like, and dreams are significant. You know, you could be dreaming about an ending. Like, I know for me, I've had some really wild dreams and I've had future dreams and different things, but they're significant because when something, you might have a dream of something exploding. Well, it's not necessarily that building that's exploding. It might be something in your life that's about to explode.
Mm.
Dreams are very significant. We need to write them down. I know I write them down a lot. And that connection just with spirits just grew stronger from that quantum healing session. I then did beyond quantum healing, where the facilitator is just sitting there. You're in control. You're in that meditative state. You're in control of where the session's going. I did that as well. I've done Reiki mastery. I did that. I did my Reiki 1 and 2 the last 2 years. I did mastery in July. And that Reiki stuff's wild. The energy and different things to really help ground my energy. I use those tools every day, and it's
Mhm.
helped my connection to myself first and my intuition grow stronger from that to come from a more grounded, calm place. It's really helped me understand that people just, help me understand people and have that deeper understanding of where they're at. Because I used to judge a lot of people. I could see their potential. And it's like, well, everyone's on their own journey. It just helped me have more of an understanding of society and people.
Mhm.
And yeah, I dabbled in that. I've dabbled in all sorts of modalities like kinesiology and different things to help me on that path, right? And those modalities are great. But if you're not physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually doing the work, then those modalities aren't going to necessarily work either. I've found that you can go and see someone for Reiki or go and see someone for these things, but if you aren't doing the work or embodying what's come up, then you'll stay where you are. It's like reading a self-help book and just not embodying anything from it. It's the same with these modalities. It's like you meet them halfway. They're giving you the energy to heal yourself, but they're not going to give you energy to heal you. They're not there to heal you. They're here to help you heal you. And
Mm.
that was one of my biggest things. It's like we go and see these people, but if we're not embodying that work or doing the evolution work or whatever work that they give you to do, then you're going to remain where you are. And then that's where people go and see psychics too, right? They'll go and get a reading. They'll say, yep, you're going to meet this person on this day and this. And it's like, that's just one timeline that they see. But then that day comes, they might be talking to some friends in a social gathering. I went and saw a psychic. They're no good. You know, they told me that I was going to have this happen and this happen, and this happen, and then it didn't happen. It's like, well, they saw a timeline for you and there's multiple timelines, but they saw one timeline of multiple timelines, and it's up to you to action whatever
Mm.
those choices or whatever that was to bring that into your reality. They're just seeing that for you, but you just went home and oh yeah, well I'm going to meet this person tomorrow, so I'm going to sit here and do nothing with my arms folded. That's not going to be able to help you meet that person or whatever it is that they told you if you're not actioning something to bring that in.
I love that.
That's
And I
where, yeah,
I actually remember one of your podcast episodes, you guys were talking about this too. It's like, sometimes psychics and intuitive people get a bad rep because it's like, oh, well, they told me this was going to happen, but it didn't happen. But it's like you said, it's they're seeing one version and they're kind of giving you that information, and it's meant to be a guide, right? So that you then as the person can go in that direction, take steps towards that direction, not just sit around and wait for something to happen. Like that's not how it works.
yeah, and it's the same with manifesting, right? You can meditate and visualize and envision, but if you're not actioning, like you'll still remain where you are if you're not taking that action. The universe will also reward action. It might just be
Mm.
sending an email, it might just be going somewhere you don't usually go and stepping out of your comfort zone to action something to bring in whatever it is that you're manifesting to bring in.
Mm. And that's such a
That's
key
advice
piece.
for me.
Yeah, that's such a key piece what you just said too, the comfort zone. Like we get said you've mentioned this a few times, like people just being really stuck in their comfort zone because quite frankly, it's uncomfortable to exit your comfort zone. That's the idea. But like that's where all the magic happens, right? Like if we want to go on this journey of, self-development and connecting to ourselves, we're going to do things that are unfamiliar that we haven't done before. And like newsflash, it's going to make you uncomfortable. But once you kind of start on that journey, I feel like for me anyway, and maybe you can attest to this too, when you're on your spiritual journey and you're doing the work, you're healing, you get so much more comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's like a muscle, like flexing that muscle that
Yes.
you can kind of keep stretching yourself further and further and further outside your comfort zone, busting through grids, so to speak, if we want to look at it from like a quantum physics point of view. So, that's just something to note, I think, for people, like it's important to remember that the work is hard. It's tricky. It's not
Yes.
always, I feel like often, healing and a spiritual awakening and all this kind of stuff, it's a little bit glorified sometimes on social media and, by people online where it's like, oh, it's this journey and it's, all magic. And it's like, no, it's dark and it
Yeah.
hurts. And,
And that's
you
another good
know,
topic too. It's like all these spiritual people are in this new age movement of love and light. Well, we're aspects of both. We have love and light, but we also have darkness. And look at the world too. The earth is light and it's dark. It's the same thing. We are aspects of both. You can't just be living
mm,
love and living light and not going back through the darkness because it's always going to be there.
yeah.
But what I found is you don't let that define you. You're not defined by the label of your darkness. You're not defined by your trauma. You're not defined by all these things. It's just there. But yeah, we're not defined by the labels that we put on ourselves.
Mm.
And it's where aspects of both, and it's just how it is. You're not gonna have love and light the whole time. Because if you're going to have love and light the whole time, then you're not allowing yourself to feel those negative emotions. You're just going to be, happy, joyful, and all these things. But then you're going to have a come down period where you're going to feel a little bit angry, a little bit frustrated. It's allowing yourself to feel those anger and feel those darker emotions.
Yeah, letting those
We're aspects
emotions
of
be a
both.
guide. Yeah, the
Yeah,
polarity, right?
correct. That's what
Yeah,
that's what I was looking for. Polarity.
polarity. Yeah, no, it's true. You can't have one without the other. That's just the way it is. I'd love to talk a little bit more about your coaching and, the
Yep.
children that you work with, because I love that you've, taken it upon yourself. Because, like, there's so many coaches out there that are just coaching, like, other coaches or, a certain person. Um, but I love that you work with kids, because this is actually a huge part of my mission too with the emotional intelligence. It's
Awesome.
like the way I see it is, okay, so us as adults, especially like a lot of us, like kind of in this day and age, like yourself, people that are kind of waking up and understanding, like, hey, there's work to be done here. Um, we're already programmed. So when we get into this work, it's like we have to, first of all, recognize our programming, unprogram it, and then reprogram in the good stuff, right? So that we can start to build these emotional health tools. But when we work with kids, it's like they're not necessarily, I mean, perhaps, like you said, up until like there's that age when they're, not even double digits yet, when everything essentially kind of does get programmed in. But the earlier that we can get to them and be like, hey, here's some new ideas. Here's some ways of thinking about these things. Here's emotional intelligence. Here's all the facets of emotional intelligence. Let's start to have these conversations. Then, if that kind of work continues with the next generation, like, oh man, in a couple decades, like the world has the potential to be so different than it is now. So much more, just awoke. We'll use that word as I air quote. So
The winds of yeah.
I love
You
that
go.
this is your mission. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, and the
So,
winds of change are blowing hard, Livia.
mm, absolutely. So my question is, when it comes to your coaching and it comes to the kids that you work with, what would you consider one of the main factors that contributes to children experiencing anxiety and depression and perhaps these self-sabotaging behaviors? Because I think anxiety and depression, they're really kind of like, for lack of a better term, like hot words at the moment. Like there's a lot of this going on that, maybe we didn't see 10 years ago, like even when yourself and I were younger children, right? So what do you think is one of the main factors that's contributing to this?
Well, there's different layers to it. There's one layer of, well, children are people too, and they can feel like they're disconnected. They can feel like they have no purpose. Doesn't matter how old they are. And unfortunately, inside that school system, that's where all of that sort of goes to shit. And they can feel lost and stuck inside this place of being told what to do and do things that they don't want to do, learn things that they don't want to learn. That's going to create anxiety and depression if you're doing something that you don't want to do every day. Look
Mm,
around you in the world today. Everyone, like, there's a lot of people doing things that they don't want to do every day on just that surface level. But where's that ingrained? Where's that come from? Well, look at little Johnny at 6 years old. He didn't want to go to school every day. Look at little Johnny at 55. Doesn't want to go to work every day. That's where it starts.
hmm
So that's one layer. Second layer, that little Johnny might have a lot of shit going on at home too. Mum and dad might be fighting. Mum and dad might be arguing every night. He'll be laid in bed scared every night. The mum's going to hit dad or dad's going to hit mum. That's all going on around in the world today. So there's another layer to it.
hmm
Then you look at the distractions, the video games and the porn and all these things. There's your third layer. If you're playing video games every night as a child, not taking care of yourself, not getting to bed on time, look like people in their 20s and 30s are doing this stuff and they're anxious and depressed. Kids are people too, children are people too. And if they're doing those things that aren't, if they're looking at a screen for however long they do, that's going to create anxiety and depression. Not getting out in the sunlight and playing with your friends out in the park, running through sprinklers and stuff. That's more an uplifting than sitting with your friend, have a headset playing Call of Duty.
mm,
There's your other layer. And another layer to this is they might have just come into this world as we're all born pure love. This is the spiritual soul level. We come in as pure love, and then we get programmed and hammered with all this stuff that says we must be a certain thing. Well, this child doesn't necessarily understand what they came here to be, but they know they came here to be something.
Mhm.
And they're not you're not ever disconnected, but they're not connect. They don't understand their soul, and their soul wants to grow and wants to evolve, and they're not necessarily disconnected. They're just not connected to themselves or their soul, because if they were, they'd have a little bit of a more of an understanding of what it is that they came here to do. They just want to create. They just want to have fun. They just want to be kids, right?
Yeah.
But the school says, no, you must do the right thing. No, you must put your hand up to speak. Oh no, you can't run today. Oh no, you need to ask me to go, asking for permission. It's like it's destroying that that authentic soul being, like giving them all these rules and regulations of who and what they should be, keeping them in a little box. Like that soul, that child wants to be expanded and wants to grow, not be kept in a little box. So if they're kept inside this box for such a long time, then they're going to grow up in 50 years' time, and they're still going to be in that box working that job, doing the things that they don't want to do. That's another layer to it. And then you throw in the alcohol, then you throw in the all the pleasuring chemicals out there in society. We all know what they are. There's your next layer. You add in those chemicals that it's poison, and you're poisoning the shit out of yourself. But why are people poisoning the shit out of themselves? Because the school system kept them in this box. They knew that they were meant for more, but they're kept small when they want to be something more, and they don't know why they've lived the way they've lived.
Yeah, like they're steered in the wrong direction, like away
Direction,
from self. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Because they've allowed someone else to tell them what to do.
Mm.
And if you look at even governments too, like people follow the orders of the government, it's the same thing in school. They're being told what to do. If you remove government and remove school tomorrow, unfortunately, you're going to have a very, very different world, because people don't know how to govern themselves.
Hmm.
They don't know how to
Yeah.
take care of themselves. So let someone else to hand their power away on an energetic level to be taken care of by another figure, such as your doctors, your teachers, your lawyers, all these things, your accountants and stuff. If people manage their own lives and manage themselves, you wouldn't need all these extra things. You wouldn't need any of it, really. You wouldn't need
Yeah.
government for a start.
Yeah, it's like the conditioning, right? Like it starts when we go to school at 4 years old. Like that's wild.
Yeah.
Like we're just babies. We're literally just babies and we're already being
Yeah,
conditioned.
but they're getting to you at that early age because they know, we can have a chat about who they are if you want, but they know that if they can get to you between the ages of 0 and 7, they can get you to do whatever it is that they want you to do. And you'll just be the robot, not knowing you have this tunnel vision.
Hmm.
Like they
And
did that to you.
and I love how you call this out, honestly. Like it's so great because it's like I've felt this way about this exact scenario for so long, but
It's
I
not
love
you, it's them.
yeah, it's like you've got such a big, like, there's so much passion. Like, I can hear so much passion in your voice when you talk about this, and you have a mission around this as well. And I'd love to talk about that next. Um, it's great. I applaud you. Like, to step out into the world and be like, this system's broken, let's fix it is that's a big undertaking. Like, that's a big thing to step out and be like, hey, this is what I see and this is what I think should change about what I see. And yeah, I applaud you for that because it's fantastic.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so excited for this project that you're working on. So you're working on a documentary about the education system and shining a light on all of this stuff that you're mentioning now, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I love the approach that you're taking. We talked about this in our pre-interview that you're really it's not just like your opinion. It's not like it's like you're actually taking the perspectives of all of these different people, teachers, parents, students, former students, having conversations with them and then showcasing alternatives to the traditional system. So I'd love to know, obviously this is something you're very passionate about. This is something that is a part of your purpose, which is fantastic, but I'd love to know what sparked the idea for this project specifically.
Well, when you go and see psychics and go and see these things, I was told 2.5 years ago I was going to make a documentary. Now, they can give
Cool.
you breadcrumbs, and I didn't know. I was asked what's it, and I didn't get told. I was supposed to go on that journey and discover that myself. Well, this time last year, but just before we moved up here, I was talking to actually the quantum healer's son. I was talking to her son about school and different things, and he wasn't enjoying it. He's one of those 15-year-old kids that there's heaps of them that just aren't enjoying it. He's awake and can see right through it all, and he doesn't want to be there.
Mm.
And he has his passion for media and film. And I just said to him, I said, we should make a documentary about this, eh? And he went, yeah, we should. And then that was end of conversation. Like there was nothing more about it. It's like that seed was dropped. Anyway, I went down to my old town a couple of months ago for my birthday, and I caught up with him, and then we just got this bit of paper out, made this mind map of how this is all going to work, and then just sort of all just took off from there. Like the name came, and then it's like, okay, let's action. Like the vision board, let's take some action now. Let's get this out there, start talking to some people, and it's sort of just blossomed from that next conversation about 10 months later. And then here we are, like it's happening now. Like it was just that little conversation 12 months ago. And I just didn't even, like, I'm pretty aware of this stuff now. I had this intuitive feeling to mention this project that I always wanted to do a documentary about it. I just needed to uncover that within myself.
Mhm. Yeah.
And yeah, and it's just awesome that a 15-year-old, or he'd be 16 soon, that's going to help me put it all together. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that aspect. It's like it's kind of like a full circle in a sense,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah. Um, now, how far along are you on this project? Have you started to
So
collect interviews and things, like asking questions and getting video footage of, teachers? And I'm curious, like, who are the kind of people that are coming on board?
So literally what we've put out there is just to get some stories. And I've spoken to some parents, and I've had some teachers and some former principals contact me and share their story, and a lot of principals that are former principals have got their own like online tutoring business or their online homeschooling business, which is great. I've had a lot of people reach out about that. But I've also had some parents out there that are pretty angry about the current state of affairs, which is
Mhm.
great. But if you're a parent out there, we don't necessarily want the anger. We just want to empower people with that stuff. We don't really want to, shine on all the darkness. We want to be able to empower people with what's going on, and also have people's stories heard too. Because I've had a lot of people email in and say that they've gone to these news programs, like in Australia, we have a current affair. You guys
Oh
have
yeah.
60 Minutes. They've gone to those shows and they don't get any response back
Right.
because they're an arm of that system. So they're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
And when I sort of researched documentaries about the school system, I found a heap that were praising it. I didn't find any on the other side. So I'm like, well, this is meant for me. I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll shine a light over here, but I will touch on the stuff over there as well. There are so many good things, but there's a lot of bad. And it's like, well, no
Yeah.
one's really talking about the bad. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'll bring that together. And then there's nothing out there having, Tom, Dick, and Harry have the homeschooling community out in Whoop Whoop. Like no one's going out to Whoop Whoop and allowing them a platform to be like, hey, we have this awesome community, come be part of it. So it's actually showing the normal everyday Joes that there's not just the school system here. You have all these other online communities and communities that are alternative and not necessarily in that mainstream system. So it's for those everyday Joes to be like, hey, there's something over here that might be worth exploring.
Yeah, just letting people know that there are actually options out there. And having spent quite a number of years in Australia and traveling around, one thing I did notice was that, schooling over there compared to how it is in Canada, there is actually quite a lot of, independent schools, like the Montessori schools. Like there are quite a lot of alternatives out there, like bush schools and stuff like that, and people just doing things in their own way. So this is really exciting. I'm really happy for you and excited for you, and stoked to see this come together. And
Thank you.
I can't wait to watch the final product once you complete it all. Because yeah, I know that there are a lot of alternatives out there. It's like I know that there are a lot of alternatives out there, but again, I don't really know what they are, where they are, who they are. So this is fantastic that you're going to be shedding a light on this. I love this project so much. This
And
is
if any of
great.
your listeners and any of your viewers want to listen into my podcast, you can find them on the Breaking Free podcast. I'm actually interviewing a few of these people in the next few weeks in the interim just to get them out there. So there's a lot of some homeschoolers and some former teachers and principals and staff are coming on my podcast to share what it is that they're doing in the interim, which will then give us some more footage to add into the documentary. So yeah, that's coming. So stay tuned. Might be able to find my podcast in the show notes or something,
Yep.
and they can listen in and they can see what's happening out there in the alternative.
Fantastic. Yeah. I love that. Oh, again, I just had a question right there and it just popped out of my. Oh, I just wanted to say as well, for those listening, that you are in the Sunshine Coast. So for anyone hearing this that wants to put their hand up and say, I'd
Yep.
love to be a part of this. I have something to say. I'd love to share, my perspective, my story. Obviously, yes, all of your contact information will be in the show notes, but just for geographical terms, you're in the Sunshine Coast in
Queensland.
Australia,
Yep.
in Queensland, in Australia. So anyone locally in the area, we actually have quite a few listeners in Australia that actually tune in. So my statistics show. So potentially some
Awesome.
people coming through from this podcast here, which I hope they
Yeah.
do. Don't hesitate to reach out.
There is also one more story I would like to share that we were going to talk about that we could probably just throw in is that the work that I'm doing is it's really, really like it makes myself proud of being able in the start of the year to have this 16-year-old child come to me, well, his parents did, and he was in that dark period of nearly ending it all. And to see him now, what is it, 8 months, nine months later, is a totally different man to what he was 7 months ago. And to hear the passion and the love and the beautiful, just the beautifulness in his voice from where he was to where he is now. He has a girlfriend and different things, and he's working at being the best version of himself every day. He's left school, he's got a job, and it's like that's a testament to that work. Like
Mhm.
he was at the darkest period, and in only 9 months, he's bettering himself every day. He's got his purpose, and he knows what he wants to do and who he wants to be, and that's what I want for every teen out there that's in that dark period right now is that there is a way out. You just need someone with a different lens to be like, hey, this is like, where is it that you want to go? It's just a matter of if you're a teen or you have a teen watching this, just ask them the question of what it is that they want to be. And don't impart anything on them. Let them speak about what it is that they want to be. Don't add in your issues with whatever it is that they want to be. Let them figure it out. Easier said than done. That I find in society that we wrap our children up in cotton wool and we wrap them in bubble wrap and we keep them like let them grow, let them expand, let them fail, let them make mistakes. And for me to be able to help, we'll call him Joey, to be able to help Joey was just awesome because where he is now to from where he was is just unreal. And we can all take a leaf out of his book that we can all do this as well. There is hope for everyone. We're not all broken. We're just a bit stuck with where we are, and that's okay. It's a good place to be. We can get ourselves out of that, and it's about asking for help and then embodying and actioning that help that person's providing you and listening to the advice and then actioning that. And that's what we can do. We can all become better. We all have the potential. It's just that we need someone sometimes to see that potential in us. And I know for me, I had some beautiful mentors that saw something in me that I didn't quite see, but then when I saw it, it was like this fire inside that no one's ever going to extinguish.
Mm,
Because once you see it, it's great that we see it, but once you see it, look out. The cub
yeah.
becomes a lion.
I love that. There's so much power in, mentorship and coaching and it's kind of full circle really to what you were talking about at the beginning. This client of yours, Joey, as you call him, what you were saying at the beginning was, the environment, right? It's a lot about who you surround yourself with. What are these people
Hmm.
saying? What are they doing? What are their habits, right? Like, is it in alignment with you? So to link up with someone such as yourself that is so passionate about, helping people understand who they are, where they're going, and then giving them the actionable steps to get there. Like, that is the power of, change and creating an environment where you can actually, have the change happen, experience change. It's incredible the work that you're doing, Nathan. I'm
And
so
this is
stoked.
another one too. I allow the parents to sit in on this stuff. I don't just have the
Mm,
child,
yep.
because if the child's going to grow, parents can grow too. Like, parents, this is valuable information that not only the child can learn, the parents can learn and embody in action too. And it's a matter of them coming back together. You know, they might, like Joey might want to grow and evolve, but the parents are like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like, no, let's bring them together and let's allow them to go on that journey together. Because in the
I love
school
that.
system, you hand your kids away for 8, 9 hours a day. So there's no growth there. So it's like, bring that family unit back, because one of the agendas is to destroy the family unit. As you can see, it's happening in real time. So it's bringing that family back together to grow and evolve together.
I love that. It takes a village, right? As they say. So that's fantastic because
100%.
there's, you have, I'm assuming, it'd be like a weekly session that you have with this kid, these clients of yours, these teens. So for 1 hour, 1 week, it's all fine and well. It's kind of like what you said about the book, personal development books. Like, you could read the book, but then if you don't like go and implement the steps, so it's like they can come to the sessions, but if they're not then going and implementing and actioning these steps, then not much change is going to occur. When you have the parents also supporting everything that happens, before and after your sessions, then of course, like, the change is inevitable, the progress is
It,
inevitable because they have that continued support.
and it's about providing a space too. Like, it's about providing a space where these children can feel seen and heard with no judgment. I don't
Mm,
judge them. They might feel like at the start that I might judge them given the way I live my life. It's like, I don't judge. I just allow them to speak, and I just let them go. Sometimes I sat in many sessions with Joey and I didn't say one word. He was just speaking because I needed to listen, and he needed to just speak about his troubles, and he didn't need anyone to tell him what to do. He just needed a space to just unleash, and I just sit there, I nod, and if he asked me to speak, I would. There's a lot of sessions I've recorded with him where I didn't say one word apart from hello and goodbye. That was it.
right.
Because sometimes these children just need an ear, or they
Hmm.
just need to be heard. They just need to be seen.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
sometimes I don't have to say a word. I just let them speak.
You just
And
create the
that was one of the
space.
things I needed to learn a lot. Yeah, I needed to learn to be able to do that, because I used to always just want to get to the root and fix everything. But sometimes the best place to be is in silence and just let the other person run wild.
I love that. Well, you're very intuitive, extremely ambitious. You've completely changed your life. You've turned it completely around. Now you're impacting others' lives in such a positive way. It's been an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you here
Me
today.
too.
And I would love for you to just share with us quickly where people can find you, where they can find more information on your podcast, your documentary that you're working on, etc.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram is at Nathan Francis and 2 underscores. Find me on Facebook, Nathan Francis. My website's currently under construction. I'm rebranding everything, so don't worry about going there. You can find my podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and Rumble, and Amazon. It's called the Breaking Free Podcast. I've done over 100 episodes now, so if you want to go back and listen to the first one, feel free. I'm a lot different to what I am now. Cut the guest off and stuff, but we will have to start somewhere. So you can
Yeah.
find me on there, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Rumble. So it's just at Breaking Free Podcast, and it's just a yellow light. Pretty easy to find. And yeah, just find me on Facebook, Instagram. Where else am I? Telegram. If you want to find me on Telegram, it's NathF994. But I'll put all the links to that in the bottom. Yeah, and website's under
Yeah.
construction.
Absolutely.
And the
Great. And any
documentary too. So the documentary, just find me on social media. All the details are on my social media about the documentary as well, so you can sort of have a bit of a look around. I'm going to do some more posts next couple of days, and yeah, just keep it going. So yeah, we're going to build a website for the doco as well. So that's all coming. We're in the early
Great.
stages.
I love that. And any final thoughts before we wrap up?
You have the potential to be whoever it is that you want to be. You just need to untether. And that untethering process is where all the growth happens. You know,
Mhm.
sitting in solitude, allowing yourself to cry, allowing yourself to feel those negative emotions, but then also allowing yourself to feel happy, allowing yourself to feel joyful, allowing yourself to be excited, because there is so much to be excited about in this world. There's so much beauty out there because the beauty exists here too. It's within and it's also out there. And it's just being grateful for where you are and then having that vision of where you want to be. And if you can't see your own potential, what there are people out there who can see it. I know I can see it. And if this podcast helps ignite that little spark inside that's starting to fire up, then who knows where you'll be in 12 months' time. And that's the most beautiful thing. Sometimes you aren't meant to know. But if you're out there and you are stuck and struggling and need a little bit of support, then feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm always here. Big, small, old, young, doesn't matter. We can all step onto the path of becoming who we're supposed to become. And it's just a matter of having that belief in yourself that you can do and be anything.
Fantastic. I love it. Thank you so much for chatting with us
No
today.
worries.
It's been an absolute
No worries.
pleasure.
Thank you for having me.